Hi all, welcome back to a new post today, and I hope you all are doing really wonderfully well. So today let's speak about some topic which has really made news not only today but from the past 2 days, and that's related with the Bhutanese king's visit to India. So the king of Bhutan is on a 3-day visit to India, but before going into that, let's speak about the Siliguri Corridor. I'm sure all of you must have heard about the Siliguri Corridor. So this is a narrow stretch of land which connects the northeast of India to the whole mainland of India, and you have the National Highway 31 passing to this. So this Siliguri Corridor is usually called as the chicken's neck. It's located in the Siliguri district of West Bengal, and it is a very narrow stretch of land, just about 20 to 22 kilometers, and this is the only passage between the mainland of India and the 8 states of the northeast. So it is geo-economically and geostrategically very important from the view of the boundary region. So we have very close to our neighbors with Bhutan, Nepal, and south we have Bangladesh. Now this Siliguri Corridor, what if it was one day dominated by China, or we had the Chinese troops stationed over there? Definitely it would cause a threat to Indian security, and especially it would cut off the whole of the northeast from the mainland of India. Yes, so today's discussion is surrounded around the close proximity to Siliguri Corridor, that's the Doklam issue. And recently the Bhutanese Prime Minister made a statement saying that China has an equal stake in deciding the position of Doklam. Let me tell you, Doklam is a high plateau area and it is disputed between Bhutan and China. So China claims the Doklam area, it also calls it Donglang, and if you see my thumbnail, I've given you the map also. So China already wants to dominate and wants to occupy Doklam from Bhutan. That's because it is very close to the Siliguri Corridor. In 2017, India and China had a standoff also with regard to Doklam. That's because the Chinese soldiers were illegally building a road very closely coming to the Siliguri Corridor, and definitely the dominance of this highway, the Siliguri Corridor or the chicken's neck, poses a security challenge to India. So let's go into the details. So the Doklam issue, the statement came from the Bhutanese Prime Minister saying that China had an equal state, and this came to a surprise to India because China illegally wants Doklam, which is actually a Bhutanese territory. There are other territories also claimed by China from Bhutan, and there are border talks already going on between Bhutan and China. So Doklam is also called as Doklam by China, and it is an area in Bhutan. It is also a high plateau area and a valley just lying between China's Chumbi Valley in the north, Bhutan's Ha district in the east, and India's Sikkim state to the west. It has been depicted as a part of Bhutan in the Bhutanese maps, but it's also claimed by China, and it is shown as a part of Chinese territory in China's own maps. Now the dispute has not been resolved, though there have been several rounds of border negotiation between Bhutan and China, and the area is of strategic importance not only to China but also to India and Bhutan as well. So the plateau lies at a tri-junction of India, China and Bhutan, and tensions over this region have been high. So that was seen in 2017 in the Doklam standoff between India and China. So recently, Prime Minister of Bhutan, that is Shering, said in an interview with the Belgium daily newspaper that he was open for a 3-way resolution on the Doklam issue, and Beijing has an equal say in finding a resolution. So this came as a very big surprise to India, because Chinese, or if in case of Bhutan gives away Doklam to China, it's going to be a very big security threat to India. So already we have not disengaged in the Ladakh plateau, where Chinese soldiers are already there in some locations with regard to the Ladakh issue, and there's no final disengagement still between India and China, especially in Ladakh. So this came as a second surprise to India. Now the Bhutanese Prime Minister's statement on China having a stake in finding a resolution to the territorial dispute is likely causing a deep problematic concern for India. India is totally opposed to China extending its footprint in Doklam, since the plateau lies very close to the Chicken's Corridor or the Siliguri Corridor. It is a narrow tract of land, which I told you, and it is the only pathway of connecting the mainland India to the 8 sisters of the northeast. India sees Chinese occupation of Doklam region as illegal, and already China has been building a road. There are also settlements like villages, etc. in this region. It is opposed. India is opposed to the expansion in the region due to its proximity with the strategically important Siliguri Corridor. Beijing has constructed not only roads but also villages within the Bhutanese territory, and this is posing problems to India as well. China has been trying to shift the tri-junction, the border, 7 kilometers south into the Bhutanese territory, which is very, very close to Siliguri Corridor, which is called as Batangla, and very close to a peak called as a Mount Gipmochi. So this would make the entire Doklam plateau legally part of China in case Bhutan agrees to give away it to China. The international map shows the tri-junction point lying at a spot called as Batangla, and now China is trying to extend it further south, which will come very close to India's Siliguri Corridor. China's Chumbi Valley lies to the north of Batangla, Bhutan lies to the south, and India's Sikkim lies to the west. So in 2017, there was a tense standoff already between India and China after the Indian soldiers stopped and the Chinese soldiers to enter in Doklam and also extend a road to the direction of the Mount Gipmochi, which is very close to the Siliguri Corridor. The recent statement of the Bhutanese Prime Minister, now that Thimphu is ready to negotiate the status of the tri-junction in Doklam with China, lies at the heart of the dispute and also the concern with regard to India. Schering's statement is also a very big contrast to the statement which he gave to our very own Hindu newspaper in 2019, said that no side should try to unilaterally change the status quo of this area, which China has already been doing with regard to construction of settlements, road, etc. Now, China wants this tri-junction to be shifted 7 kilometers south, very close to Mount Gipmochi. And if this happens, then the Doklam plateau will be under overall control of China, and this is a security threat to India. So Schering's comments reflect that Thimphu, so already China has been claiming the northern areas of Jakarlung and Pasarlung areas in the western valleys. So if you see the claim of China in Doklam, it's around 200 square kilometers plus, while in the Jakarlung and the Pasarlung valleys, it is almost 450 plus square kilometers of this area. There is a theory making rounds that because China is trying to claim the northern areas and certain western parts, Bhutan may try to negotiate a settlement with regard to China with respect to Doklam. This is one side of the theory that is making rounds, and if it does so, definitely it's going to be a very big security drawback to India, which will have to increase its soldiers there, especially with regard to Siliguri Corridor. And definitely India will not find it safe to keep the Chinese to see the Chinese soldiers at the Siliguri Corridor, because this corridor is very, very narrow, as I told you, just 20 to 20 kilometers, 22 kilometers. So any number of at least 100 soldiers is enough to dominate this whole corridor and cut off supplies or traveling connectivity from the mainland to the northeast of India. And however, it is really very unclear whether Bhutan really wants to hand out its territory. We cannot say anything regarding Bhutan's intention. There are border talks that are going on, and in October 2021, Bhutan and China had signed an agreement on a 3-step roadmap to expedite the negotiations regarding the festering boundary dispute. So let me tell you that Bhutan shares a 400-kilometer border with China, and two countries have held over 24 rounds of boundary talks in a bid to resolve the border dispute. Now, today itself, there was a news that China has changed the names of Arunachal Pradesh, 4 places of Arunachal Pradesh, and China shows Arunachal Pradesh as a part of its own territory. So this is a new concern that has been doing rounds with India, but we really do not know whether Bhutan is ready to give away Doklam to China, or what will be the result of the border talks, as the Prime Minister of Bhutan said that China has an equal say. So that's only, we need to wait and watch what will be the result of the boundary dispute talks or the border dispute talks between Bhutan and China. Now let's go to the importance of the king's visit to India. So the Bhutanese King Jigme Wangchuk is on a 3-day visit to India. The basic, let me tell you, the India-Bhutan diplomatic relations have started in 1968, and if 2028 we will be celebrating 60 years of formal diplomatic relations. So we are just about 5 years away from it. The basic framework of India-Bhutan relations is the Treaty Friendship and Cooperation that was signed in 1949, and it was renewed very recently in 2007. Bhutan is a very, very close friend of India, and most of the development activities in Bhutan are of India. The bilateral sides have seen high-level regular exchanges. The Bhutanese king has been here when there was a second swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and very lately in 2019, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a visit to Bhutan as well. Bhutan supports India's membership to the permanent status of the United Nations Security Council, and also supports India in many of the international fora and forum. So the basic framework, as I told you, and India is Bhutan's largest trading partner. So in 2020 data itself, almost 82% of Bhutan's total trade is with India. 77% of Bhutan's total imports come from India. 90% of their exports come to India. There is also a trade treaty between India and Bhutan, which is called as a bilateral agreement on trade, commerce and transit between India and Bhutan, which came into force in 2017, and it is for a 10-year period. So development partnership is very high between India and Bhutan. India supports its socio-economic development, hydropower projects, grant and aid, and also it supports Bhutan in its 5-year planning also as well. So recently, for the 12 5-year plan itself, India has contributed 4,500 crore from its side with regard to total grant component to Bhutan. India's focus with Bhutan has been on agriculture, irrigation development, ICT, health, industrial development, road, hydroelectric power, urban development, etc. Now there is also hydropower cooperation between India and Bhutan. So many of hydropower projects in Bhutan supply electricity to India, such as the Mangde Chu, then you have the Punak Sangchu and the Punak Sangchu 1 and 2, along with the Kolongchu as well. Now we provide a lot of scholarship also to Bhutan. So under the Nehru Wangchuk scholarship scheme, India provides scholarships in 8 slots to the students from Bhutan. Apart from that, we have the ITEC program, where Bhutan has been using our capacities to upgrade the administration and technical skills of the government officials in its country, and also the private sector employees as well. There is the India-Bhutan Foundation as well, that was established in 2003 to increase people-to-people exchanges. The new areas of cooperation have been, apart from hydropower development and development partnership, they have been the flagship digital project RuPay was launched in Bhutan. Bhutan also has launched the Beam app, and now we are also focusing on other areas of cooperation as well. So this is a brief roundup of actually what is the concern regarding the Prime Minister's statement of Bhutan on the Doklam issue, how it will really impact India, and a brief roundup of India-Bhutan relations. I hope this information was helpful for you all. If you did, please do comment, and thank you. I shall see you in my next post. Happy learning.